WADR.
The time is 6 o'clock and it's 7 o'clock in Lagos. Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Ahead of Democracy Day, Nigerian Parliament institutionalized President's speech on June 12th.
There can't be a better time for the President to come and address the nation through the Parliament than on June 12th.
In Togo, calls grow for resignation of President Asingbe's as new role sparks outcry. Ghana's President Mahama partners with Teachers Fund to tackle housing crisis for educators.
So if we can make provision in the budget for a fund that will be a counterpart fund to the Teachers Fund, teachers can apply to own their own homes. And so we would go in and build it for them.
And in sports, over 200 athletes from 26 countries confirm attendance at African Fencing Championships in Lagos. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. Let's begin this evening in Nigeria, where ahead of the commemoration of 25 years of democratic rule, the Senate says it is considering institutionalizing a presidential address on June 12 every year. Senate leader Opeyemi Bamidele revealed this in a chat with newsmen on Wednesday, explaining that the upper chamber is considering a bill to make the president's June 12 address to the nation a statutory obligation. Yesenu Sasitu in Abuja shares more details in this report.
We are immensely privileged to announce that we are expecting top executive members of the International Fencing Federation making it their first visit to Africa. In addition, all the esteemed executive members of the African Confederation will be here, underscoring the significance of this event. We are immensely privileged to announce that we are expecting.
Meeting with journalists ahead of Democracy Day, Nigeria Senate leader Opeyemi Bamidele hinted that the proposed legislation would include a provision to designate the National Assembly complex as the official venue for future presidential swearing-in ceremonies. According to Bamidele, this move aligns with efforts to uphold the sanctity of democratic processes while ensuring a seamless transition of power.
There can't be a better time for the President to come and address the nation through the Parliament than on June 12th. We're also hoping to be able to change our political setting to the extent that the swearing-in ceremony of the next President and Commander-in-Chief of Nigeria we hold within the arcade of the National Assembly.
June 12 gained national prominence following the annulment of the 1993 presidential election, widely believed to have been won by Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola. The cancellation by then head of state General Ibrahim Babangida triggered outrage and national protests. Recall that in 2018, former President Muhammadu Buhari moved Democracy Day from May 29 to June 12 to honor MKO Abiola and the ideals of democracy. In addition to the legislative moves, the Senate is also considering an extension of the 2024 budget implementation timeline, particularly for capital projects that are yet to be completed.
We'll further extend the implementation of capital expenditure for 2024 budget, while also ensuring that the entire budget for 2025, capital and recurrent, are funded.
The Senate's proposed legislation, if passed, could mark a new chapter in Nigeria's commemoration of June 12. For Newslink on WADR, Yechenu Sasetu in Abuja.
We cross over to Togo, where President Faure Gnassingbé is facing growing pressure following a government clampdown on protests calling for his resignation over recent changes in the constitution that could effectively keep him in power indefinitely. Activists on Tuesday condemned the arrest and alleged maltreatment of dozens of people following state protests last week in Togo's capital Lomé and on social media. Abdullah Hassan brings us details in this report.
The Togolese leader, who has ruled since 2005 after the death of his father, was sworn in as president of the Council of Ministers in May. The powerful role has no official term limit and he is eligible to be re-elected by a parliament indefinitely. Opposition politicians have denounced the move as a constitutional coup. A local rights group said around half of the 80 protesters who were arrested were released late Monday, while at least 25 remain in custody, urging authorities to release the others. A coalition of political groups known as Hands Off My Constitution said what the Togolese now want in the end of this regime, which can no longer offer anything to the people after 20 years of absolute and repressive power of Foya Simge, in addition to the release of the remaining detainees. Demonstrations are rare in Togo, as they have been banned in the country since 2022 following a deadly attack at Lomé's main market. But the latest change in government structure has been widely criticized in a region threatened by rampant coups and other threats to democracy. Public prosecutor Talaka Mawana has defended the arrests and described the protest as part of a revolt against the institutions of the republic.
Abdullah Hassan filed that report. In Mali, the Wagner Group announced its departure from the country last week after nearly 3 years of fighting terrorism, a decision that has ignited debate and mixed reactions. While the Malian government has never officially acknowledged Wagner's presence on its territory, the group claims to have neutralized hundreds of terrorists. The Transition Authority referred to them as Russian instructors. In the south of the country, where the security situation remains volatile, the withdrawal of the Russian mercenaries is worrying. Chris Faticho has more details in the following report.
In the Malian capital, the announcement of the Wagner Group's withdrawal elicited no official reaction from the transitional authorities. The latter has never acknowledged the paramilitary group's presence on Malian soil, referring to use the term Russian instructors. Among the population, Wagner's presence remains a taboo subject. While some people do not wish to speak out on the issue at all, others do so anonymously out of fear. The Russian presence has significantly improved the country's security situation, even though much remains to be done, a young Bamako resident told WADR. In the central regions of the country, the epicenter of armed terrorist groups, the deployment of the Wagner groups has been quite beneficial. Their arrival has truly changed the situation in the fight against terrorism, commented a resident of the central region with whom we spoke. Only the name will change, but the fighters remain, continued our interviewee, who did not wish to be recorded. Elsewhere, pessimism prevails. For another resident of central Mali, the withdrawal of the paramilitary group will leave a vacuum, believing that the army alone would not be able to defeat terrorism. Even though Wagner's intervention led to the takeover of Kidal in November 2023, security has since returned a large part to the national territory. The recent attacks by JNIM, a group supporting Islam and Muslims, are concrete examples. After more than 3 years in Mali, the Wagner groups is withdrawing, making way for Africa Corps, another Russian paramilitary organization controlled by the Kremlin.
A report by WDL Saliu Chairman, voiced by Christopher Aticho.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let's take you down to Ghana, where President John Mahama has announced a new collaboration with the Teachers Fund aimed at addressing the housing challenges faced by educators. Speaking on Wednesday, President Mahama said under this initiative, Ghanaian teachers will have access to affordable two-bedroom homes financed through salary deductions and supported by the Teachers Fund. The home will be priced in local cities, ensuring accessibility and helping teachers build equity as they approach retirement. The announcement comes amid Mahama's broader agenda to revamp education infrastructure, improve teacher remuneration, and restore morale across the public education system. Mahama said the announcement also strategically aligns with his focus on social protection and infrastructure development as core pillars of his administration.
The other that we spoke about before the election was that we wanted to collaborate with funds like the Teachers Fund so that governments can also make a counterpart funding and add it to what the teachers have. And then you can have your members apply for housing. We'll sit with you, do the designs together, make them. In Ghana today, when you say affordable housing, it ends up being, more for the wealthy than for the poor. And so I call it low-cost housing. Achampo used to call it locals housing, and they built so many of them all across the length and breadth of this country. So if we can make provision in the budget for a fund that will be a counterpart fund to the teachers' fund, then teachers can apply to own their own homes. And so we would go in and build it for them. And if they have a working life of, say, 15 to 20 years, it is possible to deduct, monthly from their salaries, so that by the time they are ready to go on retirement, they own the house and they don't have to go. They don't have to go and quarrel with their families about whose grandmother's room was this. It was my grandmother who built this room and all that. We believe that they should be able to retire in dignity. And so it's something that the Minister of Education will take up with you so that we design it. And then maybe from beginning of 2026, when we come for your big meeting, we should be able to announce something big.
Ghana's President John Mahama speaking there. Meanwhile, the Minister of Education in Ghana, Haruna Idris, says no fewer than over 600,000 candidates will be sitting for the 2025 Basic Education Certificate Examination (BESI) across the country. Speaking on Wednesday, Idris, while extending a heartfelt encouragement and best wishes to the candidates, noted that the examination is not just a test of memory, but a broad assessment of the character and potential of students. The minister was currently on a monitoring tour across the country, assessing the level of preparedness by the Ghana Education Service (GES) and local schools. Especially, students are expected to perform under conducive environment. As he continues his nationwide tour, the minister reiterated his support for the candidates.
Our students who have gone through training under basic education of the Ghana Education Service, we are here to convey hearty encouragement and best and good luck wishes to our BEC students across the country, numbering 603,000 who are undertaking these exams from today, the 11th to the 17th of June. An important milestone in their academic life and journey. We're encouraging them to have faith and trust and confidence in themselves and what they have learned over the period, and to consider exam as a normal process. It is just to test the knowledge and skills they have acquired over the period. There must be zero tolerance for exam malpractices across the country. And these young children represent the future and wealth of our country, and they need to grow with integrity. Let no one of them be associated with any exam malpractice. We also would want to encourage the West Africa Examination Council to be very timely with the delivery of exam papers and other logistics in order that the exam can start on time and end on time, no matter the location of the exams.
Ghana Education Minister Haruna Idris was speaking there. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM in Dakar and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Ahead of Democracy Day, Nigerian Parliament institutionalized President's speech on June 12. In Togo, calls grow for resignation of President Atingbe as new role sparks outcry. Ghana's President Mahama partners with Teachers Fund to tackle housing crisis for educators. Still ahead in sport news, over 200 athletes from 26 countries confirm attendance at African Fencing Championships in Lagos. And we also have a guest interview. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Don't forget you can listen to us live on wadr.org and join our live streams on YouTube and Facebook. Let's take you to the Gambia, where President Adama Barrow on Tuesday launched the Gambia Madrasa Integration Strategy, a national initiative aimed at fully integrating madrasa or Quranic education into the country's development agenda. Now, the new strategy is designed to give madrasa graduates equal access to higher education and professional opportunities, bridging long-standing gaps in the nation's education system. Sankli Jago report.
The Barrow administration launched the landmark initiative at the Sadauda Karuba International Conference Hall in Banjul on Tuesday. Known as the Gambia Madrasa Integration Strategy, the program aims to give madrasa graduates equal access to higher education and diverse professional opportunities. President Adama Barrow, speaking at the launch attended by government officials, educationists, civil society and NGOs, emphasized the urgency of addressing long-standing disparities.
Such barriers have inhibited the potential of a significant portion of our youth, many of whom come from economically and socially marginalized communities. We should endeavor to break down such discriminatory barriers.
The strategy is aligned with both national and global frameworks, including the National Development Plan, the African Union's Agenda 2063, and the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. It introduces reforms in curriculum, vocational training, STEM, and language education, aiming to equip madrasa students with the tools to thrive in a modern economy. Imam Usman Jah, on behalf of the Secretariat of Islamic and Arabic Education, welcomed the move.
There are over 700 Quranic memorization centers in the Gambia, with more than 25,000 students living in boarding schools. These centers also need support. We are very happy to note that the multi-sector working group on modernizing and integrating Quranic memorization centers is operating under the office of the President.
The Gambian presidency praised stakeholders, including the Ministry of Higher Education and the World Bank, for making this strategy a reality.
Sankli Janko filed that report. Elsewhere in Liberia, a preliminary hearing into the case involving 4 high-profile lawmakers in connection with an alleged arson attack on the National Assembly commenced on Tuesday. The initial session at the Monrovia City Court aimed to evaluate the credibility of the evidence presented by the prosecution just a day after the lawmakers were granted bail. The 4 lawmakers, former House Speaker Fanati Kofa, Jacob Debe, Dixon Siebo and Abu Kamara, were presented by a legal counsel, while the prosecution was led by Solicitor General Augustine Faya. WDL's Monrovia correspondent Ibrahim Parker report.
During the hearing, Liberia National Police criminal investigator Inspector Peter Johnson testified as the first prosecution witness, linking each defendant to definite roles in the alleged arson plot. The main suspect, Representative Fonati Kofa, was identified as a major sponsor of the arson, while a federal lawmaker, Dixon Siebo, planned the attack and allegedly facilitated the escape of 2 individuals linked to the incident. Representative Jacob Debbie, who Johnson said was aware of the entire arrangement, was charged with criminal facilitation. The police criminal investigator also pointed out that Representative Abu Kamara's vehicles were used to orchestrate the attack. In response, Kofa dismissed the allegations, promising to dismantle what he terms as lies and misleading accounts from law enforcement.
We have identified a series of them. We understand where the case is going. There's nothing there. It's a mockery of justice. When you have a mindset, you try to develop anything to that mindset. So you go in with a preliminary mindset that you got to be co-fast.
Similarly, Jacob Debbie condemned the arrest, calling it a waste of time.
Just a waste of our time. It's something that we need to talk about. You can't bring a police officer who goes to the barroom for 7 different times testifying lies, saying that I am charged because I was sitting in a car. According to him, I heard conversation. I didn't report it.
Priscilla Cooper, Moserado County District 5 representative, also charged in the case, is expected to file for a separate trial. The hearing continues today, Wednesday, with a further cross-examination of witnesses by the defense. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
And to some health news, the World Health Organization WHO declares Mpox remains an international health emergency nearly 11 months after the viral disease was flagged as a threat to public health. Since its outbreak in early 2024, more than 25 countries have reported infections, with the global count now at over 37,000 confirmed cases and 125 deaths. The Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, Uganda and Burundi are hotspots of the virus. In West Africa, Sierra Leone continues to experience a surge in cases despite a state of emergency declared by President Julius Maada Bio in January this year. Augustine Coley files this report.
Nearly a year since the UN Health Agency in August last year declared Mpox an international health emergency, it is extending the order. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus announced the extension following a meeting of international experts who noted progress in some countries but also highlighted a surge in West Africa. So far, DRC accounts for 60% of all cases and 40% of deaths. Dr. Tefa Kenya, a public health expert and a fellow of the West African College of Physicians, explains the surge factor.
Disease surveillance has to be a community-based entity. Now, once the watch goes down in terms of looking for cases of a particular disease, then a situation will happen when you have increased numbers. For Mpox, yes, we are noticing the trend, an upward trend, mainly because disease surveillance have weakened over time, or organisms have restored in other locations that were primarily not there before.
Uganda and Burundi have been the next worst hit, followed by Sierra Leone, which the WHO said has seen a surge in cases this year. Freetown in January declared a state of emergency on Mpox and proceeded to vaccinate frontline health workers and vulnerable groups. Dr. Tefa Kenya recommends additional measures.
What we need to do is consistently put up a system in place that can identify these cases early, report them on time, and then government take action. To break the chain of transmission of a disease, it's not just vaccine that's involved. One, for disease to happen, there is a triangle that we'll talk about, agent, man, and the environment. Of course, we also need to communicate, which is what the role of the radio and other media organizations becomes very important.
The virus, which causes a rash and severe flu-like symptoms, remains an international emergency based on the continuing rise in the number of cases and likely ongoing undetected transmission in some countries beyond the African continent.
Augustine Coley reporting there.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
We'll continue our focus on the ongoing nationwide strike by nurses and midwives in Ghana, even after an appeal by the Minister of Health for retired nurses and midwives to temporarily return to service. According to the minister, the objective is to ease the impact of the ongoing strike by the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. Speaking at a press briefing at the President's on Tuesday, Kwabena Minta Akondo reaffirmed the government's commitment to continuing engagement with the striking nurses to reach a mutually beneficial resolution in the public interest. However, Mr. Jefferson Asari Dankwa, a Greater Accra Regional Chairman, Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, expressed anger towards the minister's appeal.
We think that is a very serious disrespect for the retired nurses and also a disrespect for nurses and midwives in Ghana. I will want to ask the minister that does he even have the database of these retired nurses? And even if he has, how better do the country take care of them? It's quite worse than we in the active service. So if you cannot fulfill our plight or even seek to our needs, how much more the retired nurses who is over 60 years, 70 years, requesting them to come and do the orthopedic surgeries that they will need to stand for 6-7 hours, requesting them to come and take care of the clients or the patient in the high dependency units that need critical monitoring. This really tells us that the minister actually do not know what he's saying. Neither does he know the actual component, what goes into the nursing and midwifery care in Ghana. It is very unfortunate.
What are the core issues driving the strike, and what specific outcomes is the association seeking from negotiations with the government?
We are not asking for luxury. we are only asking for livelihood. We are saying that some of our members are working at hard-to-reach areas, deprived communities, and very difficult areas where they will need to cross rivers, go through forests and very thick forests actually to care for Ghanaians. So the government should give them 5% of their basic salary, not to every Ghanaian nurse or every Ghanaian midwife. We are only saying that only those are the villages. Give them 5%. We are saying that we have researchers who need to improve our training and our practice. So in the case of resection, give them 10% of their basic salary or wages. This is not to every nurse. We are saying that we provide medical care to government workers that government pay for. So as nurses and midwives, where we work in our facilities, when we are not feeling well, government should take care of us. Is it difficult to ask government? The midwife will deliver between 500 to 800 babies in a year in Ghana. The same midwife will go to the same facilities in which he works, and he will need to pay for even paracetamol. When he delivers, that same midwife will need to pay for it. And this, we are saying that it is unfair to us, it is injustice, and the government will need to provide that same care, medical care he provides to other professionals to us. This is what we are asking for.
Mr. Jefferson Asari Dankwa is a Greater Accra Regional Chairman, Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. In sport news, Lagos, Nigeria is set to host the 23rd African Fencing Championships from June 25 to 29 at Charterhouse, Lagos, with more than 200 athletes from 26 countries confirming their participation. At the press conference to announce the event, President of the Nigerian Fencing Federation, Adeyinka Samuel, assured participants of top-tier hospitality and robust security arrangements. He described the hosting rights as a reflection of the Federation's consistent efforts and unwavering commitment to developing the sport in Nigeria.
We are immensely privileged to announce that we are expecting top executive members of the International Fencing Federation making it their first visit to Africa. In addition, all the esteemed executive members of the African Confederation will be here underscoring the significance of this event for the development of fencing across the continent. What makes fencing in Nigeria truly unique is the intensity and hunger of our athletes that they bring to the piste. Here, fencing is more than just a sport. It's a powerful tool for education, empowerment, and character building. We are cultivating a new generation of fencers who proudly embody Nigeria's diversity and dynamism.
The upcoming championship is expected to further promote fencing in Africa while aligning with Charterhouse Lagos' vision of nurturing globally minded and socially responsible young leaders. And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mauro Juf and Umuda Nugo for the technical support. Do connect with us on all of our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, RWDR News, and Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our flagship gender program, 50/50. I am Imo Edet. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.